Welcome back to the Vault. Hi, I'm Mike Ricola, where our goal at the Nonday Filmmaking Legal Lab is to be an educational resource to filmmakers and demystify the legal filmmaking process, where we teach you film contracts so that you know and can protect your rights. Let's talk about the exact moment you lose financial leverage with a distributor. You finally score an acquisition meeting with a major streamer or completion bond company. The very first thing they ask is for your chain of title to prove you actually own the copyright to your script. Trying to be transparent, you hand them your fully executed 20-page writer's agreement. This can be a massive mistake. Now the distributor knows exactly how little you paid your writer. They know exactly how many back-end points you gave up. You just showed them your entire hand, and they're going to use that data to completely lowball your acquisition offer. You do not hand a distributor your main contract. You hand them what's called a certificate of authorship, or a COA. This is generally a 3-page clean document that legally proves you're the copyright owner under our standards without ever revealing a single financial detail. Okay, before we dive in, let's go over the regular disclaimers. First, this is for educational purposes only. This document is provided for educational and informational purposes only. It is intended to serve as a starting point or a drafting tool. It does not constitute legal advice, legal representation, or legal opinion. Second, no attorney-client relationship is formed. By reading, downloading, or using this, you and the user are not establishing a relationship between the Nonday Filmmaking Lab or its authors. You are not a client of the lab, and the lab is not your legal counsel. Third, jurisdiction. This is based on general principles of United States contract law and common industry practices. So please have local counsel review. What works in London works differently in New York, works differently in California. And then use at your own risk. By using this document, you acknowledge that you're doing so at your own risk. The Nonday Filmmaking Legal Lab assumes no liability for any errors, omissions, or consequences from using this document. So let's dive into some quick usage notes. First, why do you need this? Again, you never want to hand out a full 20-page contract that shows all the intimate details of your working relationship with someone. So you want a simple 3-page document that shows that you are the legal copyright holder. Next, you want to look at the belt and suspenders approach. Section 1 claims, as always, that it is a work for hire. Just in case a judge ever invalidates it, we have Section 2, which establishes that it is an assignment, and then we have Section 3, which establishes that it'll be transferred over to you and that there is no moral rights. And then finally, the ghosting fix. If the writer ghosts you later and you need a document signed for a distributor, this clause in Section 6 gives you the legal right to execute the document on their behalf as an attorney, in fact. So let's dive in. This is a certificate of authorship or ownership. So here you would put all your title of the project, who's the producer, your company, who's the creator or writer. One quick note for this stuff is if it's not a writer, if it's a producer you need, if it's a director you need, if it's anyone who might be involved in the intimate behind the scenes creation and need to establish a clean chain of title, you can sub that in here for here. Just make sure you swap out writer for director if it is a director. So pursuant to this writer's agreement, so again, what we have to always do is reference previous agreements because this is not really a standalone agreement. This is an agreement that is attaching itself to the writer's agreement. So again, if it's a director, it'll attach itself to the director's agreement. If it's a producer, it'll attach itself to the producer's agreement. But pursuant to that agreement, which is dated, so you want to reference the date that that writer's agreement was signed. And for good and valuable consideration, the receipt and sufficiency are hereby acknowledged. The undersigned, the writer, certifies and declares that the name of the production company is the producer and the author. So then we have Section 1, which establishes work for hire. We have Section 2, which establishes the assignment of rights. Then we have Section 3, which goes through and establishes the originality and that there's no infringement. Section 4 is that waiver of moral rights. Section 5 just says you don't have an obligation to produce it. Section 6 says that there, for any further assurances, the writer will sign off on. And if they don't, you can execute the documents on their behalf. Section 7 reestablishes confidentiality. Again, we never want to skip injunction relief. So Section 8 is no injunctive relief. Means that if something goes wrong, the writer can sue you for monetary damages, but they can't stop the movie from being made. Section 9 is indemnification. Section 10 is an important one. If there is any conflicting agreements between the writer's agreement and this certificate of authorship, we generally want to have the writer's agreement be superior. So this states that will be the case. If that's not what you want, you need to make sure you change this. Section 11 is our typical governing law. And then down here, you have the signing of the writer. One thing to note, though, and it's very important, we have it down here in the drafting note. A typical certificate of authorship is most effective when it is notarized. That way, it provides absolute proof. Now, this language is different. Different states require different language. So again, check that. But you will always have a notary page attached to it where a notary public or other officer will complete this form with you. So this is basically what they sign, saying that they certify under penalty of perjury that the writer signed it in front of them. So it's just a really good thing to have. Overall, this is your certificate of authorship. This is what you share outwardly with partners who you don't want to show your intimate business terms with to prove that you have ownership in something. So next steps. What you want to do is download the template, the link's below, keep it separate, have your writer sign this on the exact same day they sign the main agreement, and then get it notarized. Now you have the tools to secure distribution. Go out there and get to work.